Greetings my friends and welcome to the channel. Today we're talking about Jump Intercessors and Vanguard Veterans. We've had a lot of questions about Vanguard Veterans since they went down to 95 points. That was quite a significant drop and it puts them within 5 of Jump Assault Intercessors. So in today's video we're going to discuss if Vanguard Veterans in 5 or 10 is going to be a viable alternative to Jump Intercessors, and if they are, how should you be using them, what are they good against, all the normal stuff that we get into on this channel. So let's dive into this week's tactics video. So thanks so much for being here with the black coffee just like my soul. Let's get this video kicked off. Right. We're going to compare the two squads. In the goals for this video, we're going to look at the 5-man difference, which is just 5 points. We're going to look at the 10-man difference, which is still 30 points. Unfortunately, Jump Intercessors are quite a lot cheaper in the 10-man. We're going to figure out what's best in Liberator Assault Group, because that is probably the go-to detachment for Blood Angels at the moment. But we're also going to figure out if Vanguard Veterans are viable in Angelic Inheritors, because spoiler, very few people use Jump Intercessors in Angelic Inheritors, and I think there's two reasons, right? One of the reasons is they are just Strength 4. Strength 4 is really not that meaningful, and they don't have that many attacks. The Impact Mortals are still good in Angelic Inheritors, but I guess the overall feeling is that they just don't have enough attacks, and they don't have enough strength. And Strength 4 is probably like a weak point in terms of like you're just going to wound most things in the game on 5s or 6s. So that becomes somewhat of a problem. So we just don't see Jump Intercessors. Even at 90 points, we do not see them in Angelic Inheritors. And I know when I'm taking Angelic Inheritor squads, Strength 4 stuff doesn't overly appeal to me. So, Vanguard Veterans, 95 or 195. If you're running them at 5, you can take 5 pistols or storm shields, right? And there's no stipulation on how many guys need to switch. You could have 2 with storm shields, 3 with pistols. You get to choose. Unlike all the modern Primaris squads, this squad you actually get to choose. So it is like a relic of an age gone past. If you're running 10, you could do 5 pistols and 5 storm shields. It's pretty cool. On the charge, you're going to get lethal hits. They're the only Jump Pack unit that we actually have that is a decent amount of special pistols, right? Like, you could take 10 Infernal Pistols if you wanted, and obviously any combination of Storm Shields. On the charge, you're going to take 25 attacks. 25 attacks, 5 per guy. In Liberator Assault Group, they are going to be on Strength 7. Strength 7 being somewhat a meaningful breakpoint, meaning that you're going to probably wound elites on 3s or 4s. Right, and if you are going into toughness 12 stuff, then if you did take the land stratagem, you would wound on 4s. So strength 7 is meaningful, is a good breakpoint. It's one of the more meaningful breakpoints you actually need to be able to hit. The max damage with melee, however, is only 25 because each guy can only do 1 damage, and they are only OC1. I mean, the main appeal, and I think the reason these guys are expensive, is the Storm Shield, right? A 4-up in Fun Save has value, but notably, it has no value against AP0 or AP1. So if you're hit with AP0 or AP1, their survivability is identical to the Jump Intercessors. So Jump Intercessors, we know what they do. You get 1 Power Fist in the squad, you get multiple Plasma Pistols. I think the 10-man can take 3. I think the 5-man gets 1, or maybe it's 2. For every 5, I think maybe they get 2 in the 5-man. 160 points though if we go in 10. Every time they make a charge, every model that ends with an engagement range, which is usually going to be about half the squad. If you're able to get more than half the squad in, great, but typically half the squad seems like a reasonable amount. If you get half the squad in, you're going to do the number of models in the squad times like a quarter for mortal wounds, right? So if you had 5 guys, if you get half the squad in, which would be like 2.5, then 50% of the time they do a mortal wound, you'll be doing like 1.25 mortals. If you get the whole squad in, then it's 50%. So if you get 5 guys in, you're doing 2.5 mortals. Probably easier to get the 5-man all-in engagement range than it is to get the 10-man all-in engagement range, right? So yeah, if the 5 get in, you're doing 2.5 mortal wounds at the end of the charge. I suppose the shooting is a tiny bit better because you're not giving up your gun to get the Storm Shield. But if we talk Liberator Assault Group, we're getting 20 damage 1 attacks at Strength 6. we're getting 4 Power Fists at strength 10. That gives us a maximum damage of 28 before the Impact Mortals. So with the Impact Mortals, we go up to like 30.5, which would be 25% more damage than the Vanguard Veterans. We're still OC 5, we're 90 points, so we're 5 less than the Vanguard Veterans, but we have no invulnerable save. I mean, you can do some quirky things like put in a hand flamer, but I usually just take the plasma pistol. I feel like most of the time Blood Angels don't really... Like, hand flamers are going to kill hordes. Well, we've got lots of chainswords. Why do I need hand flamers? I need to kill difficult shit that needs to die, that's got lots of toughness and lots of wounds. That's why I take the plasmas, and usually when I'm shooting the plasmas these days, I'm overcharging them. Right. Both squads have the exact same leader options, right? So anything that Dante, a chaplain with a jump pack, which would be +1 to wound, or a captain with a jump pack, which would be +1 strength on the charge. So anything that can... You know, you can get the exact same bonuses. So for this video, we'll probably talk with them mostly. We're going to talk about mostly unled, right? We're going to just be unled units because we can attach the exact same character. So the meaningful advantage here might be jump pack intercessors with a captain attached could go to strength 7. But again, we don't actually see many people take jump pack intercessors with a captain. Those captains are usually attached to Sanguinary Guard. But I mean, if you wanted to hit that breakpoint of strength 7, that is something you can do with a captain with a jump pack, right? So like on first impressions, I just wanted to say what I'm expecting looking at the 2 data sheets, looking at the points, right? Like I feel like Vanguard's veteran damage will be a good bit worse due to the fact that they're missing like their 2 damage weapon on their sergeant, and they're also missing impact mortals. And it seems likely we're somewhat paying a premium on the storm shields, right? Like, the 1 extra strength between the units, for the most part, isn't going to be massively beneficial unless we're dealing with toughness 12. You could argue toughness 7 as well, right? Because that's where the breakpoint is for those assault intercessors. So if we're hitting toughness 7 or toughness 12, there could be a breakpoint there. Yeah, because jump intercessors with the chainswords at strength 6 just don't do well at all against toughness 12. And even if you have +1 to wound from a chaplain, you're still doing pretty bad against toughness 12. You're only wounding on 5s, it's very bad. So that's sort of my impressions, is right, like the storm shields, there's a bit of a premium on them. Maybe against toughness 12, the Vanguard Veterans are a little bit ahead. And my thoughts would be like the Vanguard Veterans with a captain or a chaplain could be viable in Angelic Inheritors, because we really don't not see many people playing jump intercessors in Angelic Inheritors. So that's something we're going to investigate in this video and see if we feel like attaching either of these characters to the Vanguard Veterans may have some value. If you do get some value out of today's video, please consider subscribing to the channel. I do try and put out content every week. And hit the bell. If you want to be notified every time I put out a new video, you need to click the bell and change your notifications to all. It's pretty simple. So survivability, right? And this is what I was talking about. Let's talk about AP1. There's literally no difference between. If you're getting hit by strength 5, AP1, 2 damage, which would be the equivalent of like a heavy bolter, both squads, this will be the number of successful wound rolls to kill the squad, right? So if you took 15 successful wound rolls from heavy bolters, or sorry, 15 successful hit rolls, that's what we're looking at, hit rolls, to wound, then we would wound on 3s, right? So it would become 10, and then we would fail our armor save in a 4, so that would give us 5. So 5 failed saves at 2 damage will kill a 5-man squad. So this is the number of successful hits. So 15 heavy bolters, identical, right? If we go to AP2, strength 5, AP2, 2 damage, 11 successful hits will kill the jump intercessors, 15 will kill the Vanguard Veterans. And if we go to AP3, 9 successful hits will kill the jump intercessors at damage 2, 15 will kill the Vanguard Veterans. But I just want to start by saying, like, there is no difference between AP1 and AP0. And that's something that is somewhat interesting, especially when you've got, like, stratagems like Armor of Contempt or Go to Ground. Because if you get hit with AP2, you could use one of those stratagems, go to ground for getting cover, Armor of Contempt to minus the AP by 1, and then you have basically the same survivability anyway as the Vanguard Veterans. So AP0 and AP1, you're definitely playing a premium that Storm Shield you're not getting any value from. You're only getting value on AP2 and 3, and if you're ever willing to spend a command point, let's be real though, you don't often want to spend command points on jump pack intercessors. You want to save that for like Sanguinary Guard or Vindicator tanks or something more useful. But you could match it for 1 command point, right? The 5-man squad of Vanguard Veterans are 5% more expensive, and the 10-man are 20% more expensive. So you got to factor that in. Yes, they're 33% more survivable, but the 10-man, they're 18% more expensive. So you would just basically take the 33 off the 18, and you're left with like 15%. So against AP2, maybe they're 15% more survivable. Against AP3, yeah, maybe they're 50% more survivable, something like that. I think it, like, when I was making these numbers, I was like, it feels like somewhat of an improvement, right? But I'm trying to hard in my head to like just feel how much better it is, right? So I thought what we should maybe do is take a real life situation, so we can actually all feel it and we actually know what we're dealing with. So I'm going to pick something highly controversial to dig into this, and this would be Mephiston, the Lord of Death. This gorgeous piece of art was done by Brett, who you may see on the channel time to time. I'm trying to get him to do me another graphic because I think this one is awesome. So we know Mephiston's profile. He's toughness 5, he has 6 wounds. We know his Vitarius sword, strength 9, AP 3. So let's assume we charge him, right? That's what you would do. Mephiston's lone operative on an objective, so we charge him with 5 Jump Intercessors, or we charge him with 5 Vanguard Veterans. Well, we know Mephiston's going to fight first. That's his jam. He fights first. He has 6 attacks, so he makes 5 successful hits. He has strength 9, so he causes 4.165 successful wounds. So the Jump Intercessors against this AP3 would fail 3.5. So 3.5 Jump Intercessors are, well, they're not dead. Let's hold the, but 3.5 fails. The Vanguard Veterans, 2.08 fails, right? So, doesn't this seem it doesn't seem massively meaningful having the Storm Shield, right? Like, that's what my first impressions was like. It isn't that big a deal there. But then, and Mephiston's AP3, so you would think it would be a huge big deal, right? Like, AP3, that's almost some of the best AP you can get in melee. But let's say if we did this and took, like, a unit like a Bloodthirster, right? Who has 18 attacks, so 3 times the number of attacks, and he does still hit on 2s, and he would still wound Space Marine, toughness 4 Marines on 2s. So if we literally just times all these numbers by 3, that would give us the Bloodthirster, right? A Bloodthirster hitting on 2s or wounding on 2s, then you'd be looking at 10.5 fails against Jump Intercessors. So a Bloodthirster would basically wipe the whole squad with his 18 attacks. Whereas if he was going into Vanguard Veterans, you would be getting 6 fails. Now, I'm not sure how good 4 remaining Vanguard Veterans are going to do against the Bloodthirster if he charges them. But I guess I was trying to see the difference, right? Like, how much value is in the Storm Shield. And bear in mind, the Storm Shield, we're giving up our pistols. In this case, we'd have to basically have a Storm Shield on everybody, so we have no Infernal Pistols. And we are paying, like, 30 more points in the 10-man to have this. So, yes, I mean, bottom line is Vanguard Veterans do have improved durability over Jump Pack Intercessors. And it is somewhat significant, right? Like, because if a Bloodthirster jumps in, and even if he has a poor roll, he's probably wiping the Jump Intercessors. If he has a poor roll against the Vanguard Veterans, you could argue maybe even 5, maybe even 6 survive. You could fall back, you could still use that squad. So there is some value, potentially, in all those Storm Shields. I think the trick, though, is, like, if you're going to... I think it's difficult, actually, because I think if we go back, the reason Vanguard Veterans were so good is because they could take something cool with the Storm Shield. Now it's very much Storm Shield and Heirloom Weapon, or they've called it Storm Shield and Vanguard Veteran Weapon. There is no other option, right? So let's do some melee output comparison, right? Like Vanguard Veterans with, like, their 25 Strength 7 1/1 lethals against the Jump Intercessors. And let's go again against Mephiston, let's go against Khorne Berserkers, let's go against an Armiger, and let's go against a Bloodthirster, right? Armiger purposely picked because they've just gone down in toughness. Bloodthirster purposely picked because, like, Bloodthirsters are a unit that Jump Intercessors actually can deal with if you have a chaplain and if you have 10 of them. Someone said last week on one of my videos, they're like, I think you cherry pick what you fight against in these comparisons. And I was like, I don't cherry pick this stuff as much as, like, I want to see interesting numbers. You know, if there's something I haven't done that would make a ton of sense, then please tell me. But I mean, like, Mephiston stood out to me because I was like, people often say to me, like, can you use Mephiston? How does he work? So let's talk about him, right? Like, so assuming that he, for some reason, Mephiston doesn't fight first, we've multi-charged him. Mephiston fought another squad. What do Vanguard Veterans with 25, Strength 7, 1/1 lethals do to Mephiston? Well, they only do 2 damage. What do the Jump Intercessors do? They do the exact same 2 damage, but remember, Mephiston has a 4-up, feel no pain. So that would negate some of their mortal wounds. But you can see here, the 5-man Jump Intercessors does considerably more damage into Mephiston. So Vanguard Veterans are not the correct pick here if you're wanting damage output. If we go into Khorne Berserkers, we'll do 6 damage to the Khorne Berserkers. We'll kill 3 models. That's really not great for a 95-point unit. The Jump Intercessors will kill 8 models when you factor in the mortal wound, or 4 models, sorry, when you factor in the mortal wounds. So the Jump Intercessors cheaper again, doing more damage again. Into the Armigers, Vanguard Veterans 4.1, Jump Intercessors 3.4, but add on the mortal wounds, so it becomes something more like 5.9. So quite a lot more damage from the Jump Intercessors again. And then Bloodthirster 4.1 into something like 5.1. So again, Jump Intercessors. This is assuming that every Jump Intercessor can get within engagement range. Right, so all 5 would need to be finishing their charge within engagement range. If you're only finishing with 3 or 4, then their damage comes down a little bit. But I think even if you're only finishing with 3 or 4, like, just look at every situation. It would still be more against Mephiston. It would still be more against the Berserkers. It would still be more against the Armigers. And it would still be more... You would need 3 of the 5 to finish in the Bloodthirster. And it's still... And it's identical, right? So, most of the time I feel like when you're charging with 5 Jump Intercessors... Basically what you're saying is if you can put 3 of them into engagement range, you're always out damaging the Vanguard Veterans, even with the additional strength and even with the additional lethals. This is probably why Vanguard Veterans were not getting all that much play, and dropping their points down makes people interested in them. But, like, if you are starting a Liberator Assault Group list, unless there's a real reason to look for durability in your jump units, and there could be, right? Like, you might want a unit of Vanguard Veterans, all with Storm Shields, that you are going to jump onto the middle objective, or a side field objective that isn't in cover in the early game, and you're going to go, hopefully with their Storm Shields, they're going to, you know, tank some las cannons, and they're going to hold that objective for me, and that's going to be 95 points, which is relatively cheap, right? Like, I do the same thing with Outriders, right? Outriders are toughness 5, they have 4 wounds per model. I might just put them out early to try and hold an objective. They might not do it, but it's an 80-point sacrifice that I am willing to make. And I think you could argue Vanguard Veterans are that same sort of unit. Their damage output definitely doesn't look good, right? Regardless if I cherry-pick the things or not. Maybe if I'd pick something at Strength 7 particularly, or Toughness 7 particularly, they might have been slightly ahead. But in the majority of cases here, they are going to be behind. And they cost 5 points more, right? So I'm trying to see the situation where the Vanguard Veterans are better than Jump Intercessors, right? In Angelic Inheritors, Strength 4 and 5 is generally bad, right? There's a lot of monsters and armor that is set at Toughness 10. So if you've got units in Angelic Inheritors at Strength 4 or 5, you are wounding Toughness 10 on 6s, right? People literally don't run Jump Intercessors even with Impact Mortals, I think because of this reason. So I can't see the Vanguard Veterans being any better, right? Like, if you give up a bunch of Storm Shields for Infernal Pistols, like, it's still not a great deal. Like, you might think, like, oh, cool, we could give up 5 Storm Shields for 5 Infernal Pistols. And if we look at, like, a weaker transport, like a Toughness 9 Rhino, 5 Infernal Pistols would give you 3.3 hits, which actually equates to only 1.1 wound. So the chances of you destroying a transport with the Vanguard Veterans, even if you take 5 Infernal Pistols, is like 0. Like, you're not going to do it unless you absolutely smash this roll. And even then, I think it's highly unlikely, right? The reason this probably, like, remember back at the start of the edition when Death Company could open up transports, or Sangre Guard could open up transports when those units could take 10 Infernal Pistols? I mean, the reason it worked for Death Company, because you were re-rolling all hits from a 10-man squad. The reason it worked from Sangre Guard was you were re-rolling 10 hit, or you were hitting with all 10 Infernal Pistols on 2s, because you've got Dante. Oh, and he was bringing his Infernal Pistol as well. So you actually had 11 Infernal Pistols in Dante's squad. So gone are those days of... Because 11 Infernal Pistols even if you're hitting on 2s, it's probably only like 8 or 9 hits, and then you're still wounding on 5s into most of the transports, so you're probably still only getting like 3 successful wounds through. So even like 10 guys all re-rolling hits with Infernal Pistols, there's still probably a good chance you actually can't kill a Rhino. And you have to have everybody within 6 inches as well, right? Like, it's just very, very difficult to do. So as far as taking Vanguard Vets to try and do that, I don't think it's worth it. I can't see it. And I think if you're taking 10 Infernal Pistols, I mean, maybe you could take 10 Infernal Pistols and you jump forward and you try and kill, like, enemy Terminators. You basically, what I'm saying is you can't kill transports. And that was one of the things that we felt that you needed to do. That's one of the reasons that Blood Angels used to not have to take, like, Gladiator Lancers or Vindicator tanks, right? Because we used to have an Infernal Pistol and damn near everybody, so we usually had enough firepower to open transports and then charge what's inside the transports. We can't do that anymore, right? So, you know, in taking 5 of those Infernal Pistols, half your additional survivability the squad could have. Toughness 12 and lag might be the one place Vanguard Veterans could shine, right, with the lethal strat. But, like, if you take 10 man with Lance and lethals, and you use them into Land Raider, you actually only do 6.9 damage. So that would be using your 1 CP to get Red Rampage. That would be the 10-man squad at 190 points. You won't even do half the wounds to Land Raider. Land Raider has 16 wounds. You will do 6.9. The Jump Intercessors, not using their stratagem, right? They're just charging, will do 3.7. But Impact Mortals gives them a chance of 5. So the squad is like 30 points cheaper, and you're not using the stratagem. And as long as you get like 6 in engagement range from your 10, then you're actually out damaging, or you're keeping up with damage. If you get anyone more than 6 in engagement range, you're beating the Vanguard Veterans. So Vanguard Veterans at 95 points in a 5-man is like the one situation I feel like maybe that we have here. But in terms of running them in 10, I think it's probably too expensive. Their damage output isn't good enough, and their survivability, I mean, maybe there's some play there into AP2 and AP3. But I can't see why you wouldn't just take the Jump Intercessors, because Toughness 4 Marines do just die. They do just die at a rate of knots, right? Like, that is one of the problems that Blood Angels have had recently, is Toughness 4, which is our entire army, by the way, just die very, very quickly, right? Like, and at that point, you don't just want cheaper, more damaging units that you can just jump in, do as much killing as possible, and then you die anyway, right? Like, that's the big reason that, like, I don't like the 6-man Sanguinary Guard, because most of the time the 6-man Sanguinary Guard and Dante go in and kill something, and then they're just left in the open and they just die anyway. So, like, there's an argument to be like, well, if it's 3 Sanguinary Guard and Dante, that was last week's tactics video, and we shoot that thing quite a bit with, like, Plasma Inceptors or Vindicator tanks, and then we go in and make the charge, and then when the inevitable counterattack comes in, having 6 or 3 Sanguinary Guard makes no difference. Most opponents have enough shooting power. If they can remove 3 Sanguinary Guard and Dante in a turn of shooting, they can probably remove 6. You know, it's just 3 more Toughness 4 models. It's not that big a deal. So, right, the conclusion on this video, I think, is it is actually really hard to justify taking the Vanguard Veterans over the Jump Pack Intercessors, even with the reduction of points. I think a lot of Blood Angels players start Liberator Assault Group lists with 3 times 5 Jump Intercessors. Some people actually go as high as 30 Jump Intercessors. Now, if you're doing that and you're getting value out of that, I think you should still be doing that. I don't think the Vanguard Veterans offer... The only thing they offer here is some survivability against AP2 or 3. And yeah, the only situation that makes sense is if you want the AP2 durability on the jump unit, right? And I think you could want that on a 95-point unit. Maybe you want 1 unit of Vanguard Veterans you can jump forward in turn 1 and be like, hey, I've got a chance of surviving on this objective, because let's be honest, if you park a unit of Jump Intercessors on an objective and the opponent can see them, most of the time they have no chance, right? I think almost every situation the Jump Pack Intercessors will outclass them. They're considerably cheaper as well when it comes to the 10-man. I think ages past, right? The thing that made Vanguard Veterans stand out was the Storm Shields and the Lightning Claw combo, right? Because Lightning Claw had good AP, and it would add additional wound reliability. I've rolled wood reliability. You could tell it was late last night I was making these slides, can't you? Wound reliability is probably why they were also popular, right? When you link them to the Jump Sanguinary Priest, when you could get AP2 and you get a 5-up Feel No Pain. Like I've said, rest his soul. Let's hope the Jump Sanguinary Priest comes back, because like I still haven't bought the new Sanguinary Priest. I think he's kind of a pointless model on foot. Like, I don't even know who you attach him to. I guess maybe if you're running that Horde Blood Angels list, but so I kind of hope when Vanguard Veterans finally traverse the Rubicon Primaris, but we don't, we don't talk about this anymore. This isn't something we talk about. We don't use that word anymore. I think when the Vanguard Veterans get their new kit, I hope they get some better weapon options. I think they used to get Thunder Hammers, they used to get Power Fists, they used to get Lightning Claws. I think they need the Lightning Claw, the Storm Shield Lightning Claw. I think they could be costed effectively to use that kit, and I think that's what I would like to see. Or bring back our Jump Sanguinary Priest. But at the moment, even at the lower points cost, I think the taking of the Vanguard Veterans is very niche. Maybe if you're running 3 times Jump Intercessors and Lag, and you feel you want that other cheap trading unit you can use for early game scoring, these guys could be an option. Beyond that, I'm really not seeing the use for them. But here's the kicker, like maybe you guys are seeing the use. Maybe someone's going to win a tournament this week with Jump Vanguard Veterans. So if you found a use for them and I have missed it, then please correct me in the comments down below. I would love to hear the community's thoughts. We always get a bunch of good comments every week, and they're always interesting for me to read. So please do that. And if you haven't watched last week's video about running Sanguinary Guard in units of 3 and why that could actually be a viable way of playing Liberator Assault Group, then please do watch this last week's video. If you're buying any models in the next couple of weeks, you can use the Wargame Portal if they're in the US, or the Element Games affiliate link down below. And if you want to support the channel, there should be a big join button underneath where I am right now, or the Patreon is in the video description as well. So please do consider becoming a channel member. You get access to our private Discord. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've got any other suggestions since the new balanced data slate that you would like me to look at, you can leave a comment down below. I will see you on next week's tactics video, my friends. Thanks ever so much for watching and staying to the end. I do appreciate it. Have a great weekend. By the blood are we made strong, brothers. Peace.